Meeting of the Conservation Commission. On tonight's agenda, we have two permits, one at 74 Pleasant Street and one concerned with a sidewalk on Route 10. These are going to be addressed later on, around 7:20 to 7:30. Subsequent to that, we'll have some projects and discussions concerning with our open space issues and that the Conservation Commission deals with. As you may know, the Conservation Commission is responsible for managing about 600 acres of conservation land in the town, and we have a number of projects associated with their maintenance, and that will be discussed around 7:40 today, and hopefully we'll adjourn around 8 o'clock, but time will tell. But initially, we'd like to open the meeting and ask comments from the public if they have any issue other than those that are presently on the agenda that they'd like to discuss with or bring to the attention of the Conservation Commission. The first 5 minutes of the meeting, that kind of information can be discussed. Does anyone in the public have something to address to the Commission? Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the right place for it. You can stop me if you think it's not. I just wanted to talk about land that's in 61A, not the specific ones that are under discussion, but in general. Because, as you may know, you and I may not often agree, but one thing I heard you say in the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 4th of March was that there's a lot of 61A land, and it would make sense to take a look at what's out there, what might possibly be of interest to the Conservation Commission to conserve it as open space, and to prioritize that.
That's right.
And get ahead of it, because, you know, when it comes before this board and it's been parceled out in retail lots, then you're paying, you know, premium price for an acre of land, $150,000. So I would just appeal to the commission to maybe even at some point tonight make a motion to put together some sort of a task force to assess the 61A land and develop a prioritization plan.
Well, that's on the agenda under open space projects, and it is the protocol that I mentioned at the town meeting that the Massachusetts Associative Conservation Commission requires. Hey, Jamie, how you doing? Requires or suggests to have, instead of hostile interactions between the residents and the Conservation Commission, to come to agreement if there are some properties that seem of interest to them to have preserved, or if we would like to approach them about in a civilized fashion. Okay, anything else? So I'd like to move on then, and we're going to take care of some basic business now associated with review minutes, Treasurer's report, signatures, correspondence, and the Community Preservation Commission. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce Jamie Bartak, who is our liaison with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. As you may not know, that this commission has signed up as in a compact with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and they provide us a lot of services. And we're very instrumental, for example, in getting the land grant leading to the Greenway purchase, attempted Greenway purchase, the struggle we're going through. But this is Jamie, and she is here to monitor the things that we do. She may have interest to be sitting down with us individually or in a conference call, just to get some sense of the kind of work we do, and the whole thing is leading to establish within the town a part-time conservation agent. There was a grant from the District Local Technical Assistance Program for $13,000 to develop such a framework, and this would be a joint conservation agent between Southampton and Easthampton, because we have enough professional activities here that require a lot more than really what should be demanded of a volunteer. So that's one of the projects that we're involved in also. So I guess I will, if everybody has read the meeting minutes, I have read them. Is if there's some people who would like to amend them in the commission, some commission would like to amend them, fine. But I'll take a motion to accept them as written or as amended when someone feels comfortable doing that.
I have two amendments. One at 7:14, I would like to insert the following sentence in between Kemp and cannot. The first two words, between the second and third words at 7:14. Resigned as the Conservation Commission representative to the Community Preservation Committee as he. And then it continues on with the sentence.
Okay.
Conservation Commission's representative to the Community Preservation Committee as he
Yep.
cannot be the vote. Is that the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay. Second amendment, 852, last page. Mr. Kemp left the meeting. I want to insert for the duration of the meeting. That's all I have.
853. Says Mount Lawrence, second the motion. I'm sure it was supposed to be Mr. Lawrence. Second to last line of it.
Yes. Well, checker only goes so far.
There you go.
Move on one.
Barring any further edits, I move to approve the meeting minutes from February 24th
As amended?
as amended.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's some discussion.
Oh,
Oh,
more
sorry.
discussion, I'm sorry.
I don't know if I can comment, but I wasn't at the meeting, but it says somewhere here, 9:14. I was looking at something else, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move on to...
You got a vote. Mr. Chairman, got a vote.
One more time on the vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Now I guess we'll go on to the treasurer's report.
Just handed out the copies from our last meeting. I have two warrants to sign tonight. Charlie, one don't you sign because you're on that one. And I'll pass this down. And I have another warrant for Marla and myself who we attended the MAACC annual conference on the 1st of March. And that one you can sign, Charlie. And Marla will sign the second one, all right? And that's just about it. I do have some checks here. I did get the check from Charlie for the overpayment, which will, it's already shown in your printout. And I guess that's about it.
It should be noted that the Conservation Commission has a budget provided by the town, but fortunately from the Conan family and Hazel Young, they provided us with memorial funds to help lubricate some of our, especially our maintenance projects. So that's an advantage this commission has relative to other commissions.
Sorry, I forgot, I should mention also, we did get hit with a finance charge and a late fee from Staples, Loveland Staples. I'm glad they're closing 250 stores. And that's because of getting this thing started, and also we didn't meet for over a month. And hence, we ended up with that charge, so unfortunately.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll get to some of this correspondence. This was read the last time, but it might be very useful to remind everyone that the Kestrel Land Trust invites friends, volunteers, and partners for a free training opportunity. The design for volunteers who are interested in becoming volunteer property monitors for Kestrel Land Trust. This workshop will be useful for anyone looking to develop skills in monitoring properties protected by fee or conservation restrictions. We are happy to offer this free training opportunity to our municipal partners, so please join us. We'll review the basics of conducting a site visit and get some practice in the field. Training is free, but advanced registration is required. Please choose one date, Saturday, March 15th in Easthampton. It goes from 9:30 to 12:30. I think I'm going to attend that, and maybe Courtney also, but it's a useful thing, given, again, that we have responsibilities for a number of properties that the town owns, but we're requested to manage. There is also the 214 Hampshire Franklin Municipal Conference. This is April 12th. It is located, I think, in Northampton, and a number of topics are going to be addressed from 8 to about 11:45. State Representative Jave Kaufman, co-chair Tax Fairness Commission, will be there. There will be also individual sessions with water infrastructure bond bill, municipal pension reform, and green energy. And I'm looking for, this is at the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center in Northampton on April 12th, beginning at 8 a.m. So that's another option for someone to learn something. Now, we also have subscription to Northern Woodlands. We seem to get 2 volumes. So I think some of us might, Matt usually takes one of them home. There is also our Journal of the Massachusetts Audubon Society. And we have something from the Planning Board. Joseph M. Topor and Jamie F. Topor. It's a site plan for a parcel on Duggan Lane. Just that once they approve a parcel, they give us this information, pass it on, maybe someone of the people in the commission will be able to add something to that discussion at that point. Okay, and the last piece of correspondence that I'll bring up is a message from the University of Massachusetts and Department of Environmental Conservation. And it involves forest management, and they've given us a poster to hang somewhere. I'll just read the letter that came with it. More than 60% of Massachusetts is forested. 70% of those forests are owned by families and individuals. These family forests provide us with critical benefits such as clean water, wildlife habitat, forest products, recreational opportunities, scenic landscapes, and carbon sequestration. The key to maintaining these benefits is to reach landowners with information to help them make informed decisions about the future of their land. Over 5 years ago, we launched masswood.net to promote informed landowner decisions. Masswood provides landowners with information on land trusts and foresters working in your town, conservation-based estate planning and professionals, Chapter 61 current tax use programs, selling timber including quarterly stumpage prices and forestry programs, and Keystone Projects training for local conservation leaders. Encloses a poster advertising www.masswood.net. Town halls are at the heart of the community. We are hoping that you will find a place in your town hall to hang it where landowners will have the opportunity to see it. There's a person's name and so on. So that's a opportunity for people to consider if they want to preserve their property. We have 5 minutes before we address the first permit. An RDA, yes, Mala?
Excuse me, I would just like to remind everyone to please sign in if you haven't, because the clipboard sometimes disappears. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I think we were going to vote for a commission representative on the Community Preservation Committee, but we wanted to have everyone present, and Rick is coming supposedly in a not-too-distant future. So we'll postpone doing that until that time. Okay? We have approximately 5 minutes. We could move down into our stewardship, land maintenance, and survey. Just as a preface, when we have to get to the community preservation at their next meeting with an estimate of what we'd like to spend money on. And this would be the first Wednesday of the month. Janet, I think that's correct. The first Wednesday of the month at 5:30 for the community preservation meeting. And the projects that are going to be presented typically have a fairly long period of discussion. They are requested in October, and I think at their meeting where they accept projects, they received 13 this year, and included in that were projects associated with maintenance of the Manhan Meadows, the Whittemore, and the MAP projects. We are in a project with PVPC to develop hiking maps, and the two that we're working on right now are Wolf Hill and the Zip to Conservation Farm. And these will be small brochures. You may recognize that we have the master brochure, came out last year, second edition of it, which covers all they're all over the town hall here. It covers a description of all the conservation lands in the town of Southampton.
Any dollar amounts to go to CPC with?
We have some estimates of dollar amounts for the Manhan, and for the Whittemore, and for the MAP projects. And we were going to discuss those, but I think we'll wait till a little later in the program, in the agenda. But those are, and I did mention, I did attend the last Community Preservation Committee and survey work. They were responsive to that in the sense that it could be in the historical, the 4 areas, the historical, rather than open space, it could be the historical dimensions of their support. So that's something that we will move on and discuss in greater detail, because we have actual numbers here, okay? Okay, I think, is it okay to start, Marla? 74 Pleasant RDA? Okay.
Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to let the record show that I'm leaving for the duration of this discussion.
All right. Now, we have a project, and this is the second. How are we doing? Everybody has to leave, is that it? Bob have to leave?
Butter.
Oh, thank you. That's an issue, absolutely. This is a project, it's the continuation of a public meeting associated with a project at 74 Pleasant Street. This project is described as the building of a single-family home in driveway and landscape and septic on a 2.095 acre lot, right? Mark, yeah. And Mark is representing the applicants, Nicholas M. and Susan A. Simonich. And we had the meeting beginning at our last meeting on March 3rd. And typically, we end up having a site visit after a project permit is introduced. And because of the snow, we were hoping that it would have all been melted by last Saturday, but it wasn't. So we have not had a site visit. So we are just introducing this project again. There was some discussion of the septic system and the options for a septic system. And the only thing I think we could address tonight, because we cannot vote until, even Rick wasn't here the last meeting either, I don't believe. So we won't be able to vote on this until our next meeting. And is there anything that the commission would like to ask Mark about this project?
I'd like to get our money.
Money.
That's all right. Charlie's got a receipt over there for you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
I also, for the record, my name is Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys representing the Sillages, and I have 2 copies of a letter and correspondence that was sent to the board by email, and a revised plan based on some requests by Matt Christie to show grading around the proposed house. And we've also added the 50-foot buffer zone to the plan. And the correspondence and letters are set forth that we can discuss either tonight or after we have a site visit. I would like to reschedule a site visit if you're meeting in 2 weeks, or either, well, since we got daylight savings time, we can either do it for late afternoon or Saturday, which would be the 22nd, and hopefully in 2 weeks the worst snow will be gone.
Yeah, we're going to meet on, what is the next one, on March 31st? 31st.
31st? Okay.
31st.
So we could even meet on the 29th on that Saturday or sometime before that.
Okay. Is that is that agreeable, Mala? Anybody has a problem with that? We'll have to get Matt involved there too, if it's possible. Matt was going to be here this evening, but he had a quick trip out of town. So, a site visit on March 29th
Yes.
at 9 a.m.? Yep. And,
That'll work for me?
yep. And we'll just ask permission to continue the discussion until then.
Until the 31st, you said your
That's
meeting
correct, yes.
date is?
Do you have any comments about this Clivus septic system that was part
Yes.
of the discussion?
If you want to go through the
We
letters that I
have,
submitted.
we
Keep
have
in mind that the sewage disposal system has to be designed in full compliance with Title V. Just putting in a composting toilet does not eliminate your septic system. you still have to design a septic system to accommodate the design flows as required by Title V. So the plan that is submitted to the board is in full compliance with Title V regulations. And as you got a copy of an email from Mark Stenson, we are outside of the 50-foot buffer zone, which is required under Title V, and that the system is in compliance with Title V. The regulations for Title V don't exempt you from making the system smaller. It's based on the number of bedrooms. It's 110 gallons per day per bedroom, whether you have a composting toilet or not. And the system has been designed to accommodate that. I've provided you copies of the sections of the regulations for you to read. I also provided in the letter copies of a DEP for Wetlands Protection Act, a policy with the presumption of subsurface sewage disposal systems that meet Title V or more stringent local Board of Health requirements. And this document is a part of that application and
I think they all
regulation.
got those.
And that you can see that we meet all the requirements under this section.
Yes.
And the applicant does not wish to install a composting toilet.
What is the maintenance issues with those?
Nothing.
Maintenance, well,
Well,
other than the expense of the unit,
a
they still have to be cleaned.
About every 12 to 15 years, so.
Correct.
It's a digester.
15 years.
Yeah. Mark, I think the major thing here was to point out that it's an alternative and may not, it may not be needed here because obviously if the applicant doesn't want a composting toilet, that takes care of that system. But it may be a good system for Pequot Pond and places like that where
might be.
we have very small footprints and we're past, thank God, the days when you throw the 50-gallon drum into the water. So that, I think, was another reason why that was brought up as a potential. So
You have flexibility under a repair of a system where I believe a composting toilet may be more beneficial. But even under repair, you're still going to have some type of sewage disposal system to handle the gray water, which is your bath water, not human waste. So you still have to treat that. By the regulations, your washing machine, dishwasher, clothes washing machine have to be put into a septic system. They can't be just discharged out onto the ground or into a 55-gallon drum. So a composting toilet is not the elimination of a septic system.
no, I agree. But most of the effluent that comes out of a system like this is almost drinkable. So theoretically, the leach field has got to be smaller, theoretically.
Well, right now, Title V, to my knowledge, doesn't allow you to reduce the size of your system. Is based on bedrooms, and that's the only criteria that Title V has.
Okay.
So that if your house has 2 bedrooms, you have to design for that, whether you have a composting toilet or not.
Okay.
No further discussion?
No?
I have a question.
Can you identify yourself?
Sure, yes, I'm 83 Pleasant Street. I have a question. I'm sure that this 4-bedroom system is in compliance with Title V the way it's designed. I guess the question I have in my mind, is it in compliance when you take it and put it in a 100-foot buffer zone around a wetland? And I don't know the answer to that. It kind of seemed like Mark Stinson's note was saying that was okay as long as it didn't go into the 50-foot buffer, but it would be really great to get some clarity on that so that if it's fine to put a 4-bedroom septic system within a 100-foot buffer of a wetland, that we know that and we don't have to have
Mark, I think you can do that.
Yes.
Typically, the wetlands protection really is not strong enough. What we do is try to avoid it and mitigate its influence.
Right.
And eventually, if it was going to, in the judgment of the commission, require or destroy considerable amounts of wetland, ask for a restoration or a section of the property that will be transformed into a wetland.
So what I was wondering, when people start chopping up the family farm into plots here to sell them off to developers, I live on one of those, I can't really complain about that. But when they do that, is there any way to determine beforehand that we're going to sell this lot with the restriction to build a two-bedroom house?
Yes.
Because you can't put a four-bedroom house in here without going into the wetland buffer zone. And I mean, the ship has sailed on this one, and I see Mark shaking his head, but...
No, can't be done. Title V says that a sewage disposal system can be no closer than 50 feet to a wetland. In the information that I emailed to everyone, including Gail, if you read all of the information, it's very clear on what can be done and what cannot be done in the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. And we all live by rules and regulations. I didn't make those rules and regulations. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts did. So that people beyond us have determined that a sewage disposal system is safe within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone.
Okay, I just wanted to get that down in the record, because I wasn't totally clear on that. I don't take issue with what rules have been established at all.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Nope. And we'll extend the meeting until the 31st, okay?
At 7:20?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to, yeah, okay, good. Now, we'd like to begin the public hearing on a notice of intent application filed by the Mass Department of Transportation, and this concerns a sidewalk in the town of Southampton on Route 10. The public notice was published, and it read as follows. The Conservation Commission of the town of Southampton will meet on Monday, March 10th at 2014 at the Town Hall building at 7:30 for a public hearing on the notice of intent under MGL 131, Section 40, brought by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. The proposed project involves providing sidewalks and wheelchair ramps along Route 10 from the fire station to the gas station. Copies of the notice of intent can be obtained from the Commission or the MDOT Representative Brian Sullivan at 600 Yukon Park Drive, Woburn, Mass. You did note that Rick showed up at the meeting? Cool, thank you, Mo. And so I'd like to get, I think Karen has one of these things, right, Karen? And we have 3 of those, and we have big maps of the project. The perturbation to this project, at least from this public hearing point of view, is that the representative will not be here tonight. The reason being is that this project is going to have to be digested by the planning board, and they may not get to it for a number of weeks, because associated with this project is stormwater management issues, and that will take another public hearing with a public notice by the planning board. So we are just going to introduce this project and review and answer whatever questions we can, but we'll have to postpone any further discussion. We'll have to postpone any further discussion or any questions that we cannot answer until the 31st. I will, however, read the project description and purpose, which is in this brochure. You can all get a copy of this if you choose to. We have 3 right now, but we'll take names if you'd like to get the full. And again, we have the detailed engineering diagrams here. Project description and purpose. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division is planning to construct sidewalks and wheelchair ramps at 4 locations in District 2, Hadley, Amherst, Northampton, Southampton, and West Brookfield. The construction will provide sidewalks and ADA-compliant accommodations in locations where currently none exist and replace existing non-compliant sidewalks. Proposed work within 3 of the 5 towns, that is Hadley, Southampton, and West Brookfield, is within jurisdictional wetland resource areas. Therefore, notices of intent have been filed simultaneously within each of these towns. This project qualifies as a limited project under 310 CMR 10.53, 3(F), improvement, quote in italics, improvement of existing public roadways, but limited to widening less than a single lane, adding shoulders. A notice of intent is being filed for work within the BVW bordering vegetative wetland to replace a head wall, as well as work within the buffer zone of this bordering vegetative wetland. The proposed project, and this is relevant to your interests, the proposed project is located along Route 10 in Southampton. Route 10 runs generally north-south, with the proposed sidewalks located on the west side of the road, from the fire station at the northern extent going south, then switching to the east side of the street at Conant Memorial Park, north of the intersection with Clark Street. The sidewalk will continue south on the east side of Route 10 to the project limit by the Citgo gas station. The total sidewalk construction length in Southampton is approximately 2,600 feet, linear feet. The proposed sidewalks in Southampton will include the replacement of existing non-compliant sidewalks and construction of new sidewalks where none currently exists. This project will provide passage through mixed-use area, better connected residential areas with the existing park, and improved accessibility for disabled persons. The proposed improvement will provide a safer environment for motorists and pedestrians during all traffic conditions. In this crossing, at Conan Pot will have a light and will be manually adjustable so people can cross the street and under those conditions, and they'll be ADA compliant. So that's the information we have. We can show you the plans. And beyond that, the representative, Brian Sullivan, from Bayside Engineering, Inc., he's not here tonight, he's from he's in Woburn, Mass. So since we won't be able to address and complete a typical, typical with a notice of intent, we have to get the abutter notification responses. The engineering company sends information to the abutter, and we have to document that, and that is not possible tonight. In addition, the engineering figures are not stamped. They seem to be, I think they're accurate, but they're not stamped. So we don't have some of the critical things that we typically have when we approach having a notice of intent. But we do have some brochures, the notice of intent information, and we have some maps. So I will open it, I guess. Do the commissioners have any questions to begin with concerning this project? No, basically we have to get these, we have money, we have got the permit fee, we also have got the ad fee. The ad fee went in February 27th, and so if there's no questions from the commissioners, I know a lot of people in the audience would like to ask some questions.
Do you have copies of the plans? So we can
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, right over there. Can you give me one of those so that they can? There's one in the audience also.
Running out of books today. I'm ordering another book.
This is, I have 3 of these, and no one leaves until I have 3 back, but you can look at these. And you did. Well, yes, you did, thank you. I have 3, yes. Courtney?
Well, this may help, but we do have a map here, in front of the audience. I think this is Route 10 here. Fire station is up here, this is High Street. So I think as I understood it, you're talking about sidewalks coming down on the west side of Route 10 until you get to Conant Park. And I'm not sure where this light was going to be. Is
That's
it
it.
down here at
Clark, yeah.
Right at the intersection?
No, I don't think so, no, hold on.
Where is the sidewalk cross?
It only goes up to Maple Street.
Next one.
We're just looking water supply alterations, moving water. This one. Figure out where it's going.
The crossing will be north of the intersection with Clark Street. But I have some information about the,
Getting closer.
you should be able to see that on the map.
Crossing should be somewhere right here.
See, right on the cover sheet, Charlie. It's
Yeah.
the crosswalks are right at the border.
Somewhere here, I think.
Someone's interested in exactly where that is located? It's shown here.
Sidewalk. Clark Street's further down. It's right across the street from the Clark Chapman house.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, Mom.
That's about right.
Here's Clark, this is over here.
Is this going up here?
Right.
Yes.
The road, how you gonna, I was gonna plow the snow onto the sidewalk.
And then,
Then we
yeah,
gotta get,
and then we still have to take care of it.
right. So you'd have to wait till we're done
Right,
plowing.
it's going to be 100 north side of Clark
Yeah,
Street.
it's right on the curve.
Moving right to the road, but that
Go
sucks.
from east to west.
It's constantly gonna be filled with snow.
Every time plow goes by, yeah.
Were these plans approved by the highway?
These haven't been approved by anyone.
These,
This is Mass DOT.
You're looking for somebody to yell at me too. That's
Sidewalks
crazy.
right on top of them. Where do you folks live? Mass DOT.
224, so we're at one.
state.
You're gonna be out there shoveling. 224.
So where's the actual curb? See, there is no green belt then, right?
Yeah, it looks like they do a curb cut. And then, it's also green, on the sidewalk. So you got a staircase you put in.
Yeah.
Retaining wall, so they're gonna do it.
Another says there.
Grass belt, another set of stairs. Sidewalk.
I think the original design was better.
These are the only ones I've seen, so.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's gonna cut right across from Clark Street and trees down there.
So you're gonna have to bring in a ton of fill here too, because this is all, Goslin's is all ditch.
Small meeting, so I'd be the next page. It's just gonna end right in the gas station. Thank you very much.
Open space project. We can move on now. Is there any questions or any additional, Liz?
So I'm just wondering the reasoning for keeping the sidewalk on this side, on the west side of the street rather than the east side of the street. So I guess my concern would be to cross that road there, up there, doesn't look very safe to me. If you're coming down that little hill, there's going to be a crosswalk there or a light. And thinking about it, it would make more sense to put the sidewalk on the east side of the street so that you could come up the same side of the street as Conant Park, and then if you wanted to cross, there's already a light here with a button, you could just push and cross. And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the Safe Routes to School project start with the sidewalks on this side of the street? So if you came from Conant Park, down that side, you cross that one light, and then you continue up the street on the other side, rather than having all those places to cross. It doesn't seem very safe to me, and chances are it's kids that are going to be, well, not chances are, kids will be crossing the street, and it seems it would be better to have them cross in one place rather than have two on this busy road. And so I'm just wondering why the east side, is it to fix the sidewalks that are already there instead of create new ones, or what the reasoning is?
Well, certainly to the old library, there's existing sidewalk there.
On that side anyway, right?
Right.
And so why not keep the kids on the side of the street where the park already is, rather than have them on the other side of the road? And so then I guess the next thing is, I'm thinking about like walk to school day, and we could start at Conant Park. We don't have to cross all those streets. I'm thinking about the baseball parade. We don't have to cross the street. It's all on that same side of the road. And so I guess I would kind of hope that we could switch it, or at least talk to somebody about switching it.
Or perhaps add more to the east side,
Yeah, I mean,
from the old library to the park.
I don't know that you need it on both sides, so if it's a cost thing,
I'm just thinking, true.
You know what I
But I'm
mean?
thinking where the crosswalk, the new crosswalk would be, that gets you from the Clark Chapman house to the park, which gives you access to the old schoolhouse, which, I mean, like you're saying, with kids' trips and whatnot, don't they visit both of those on the same day? So it would give them a crosswalk to cross the highway.
well, if you have the sidewalk on that side of the street, then you could walk up from the school on that side and cross here and go up, and they're already there.
And stay on that side. I get you.
I guess it just, in my head, it makes sense to have the sidewalk on the other side and eliminate a need for another light.
Isn't the lay of the land, are we better off to have all the crosswalks, the sidewalks on that side anyway?
Right now, they're on both sides.
Both sides, yeah.
Which side is more usable at the moment? Me. Oh, okay.
I don't use them very often, I don't know.
Yeah. It's been years since I went down those sidewalks. I would have to guess the one on the east side, probably.
Yeah.
That's better, yeah.
Hey, Bruce?
My name is Bruce Holmes, and I have two businesses in town at front of College Highway. One of them is Heritage Surveys, which is located at the intersection of Park Street. I also own a piece of property southerly to Heritage Surveys, which is formerly Selasi's house. And from Clark Street southerly to the gas station, I own all the property there, which is approximately 350 feet from that intersection southerly, which is being proposed in these drawings for this project as having a new sidewalk when it doesn't exist. Also, I agree totally with what you're saying about having a sidewalk on the east side of the Route 10 would make a lot more sense. The library building, former library building, is now a bookstore, and we do get some foot traffic into the bookstore. But the students that would be coming suddenly from school to the park would be served much better, in my opinion, having it on the east side down to the park. But there is really no reason to extend the sidewalk from Clark Street down to the gas station so that students could walk from Clark Street down into the gas station where cars are coming in and out of the gas station all the time, creating a hazardous condition, and it would also add 350 feet of sidewalk that I would be required to shovel and plow, which doesn't have that requirement now. In addition to the 4 properties that I own on Route 10 have plowed now and shoveled. And I try to keep the library sidewalk in front of it shoveled. It's not in the best of condition, but it could be improved if they were to put it on this side. So the first I heard about this project, I realized this might not be conservation related, but on the other hand, I'm not going to be here on 31st, and I wanted to express my feelings to a few people while I can. The first I heard about it was the middle of last week, when I got 3 certified letters. And I had no inclination whatsoever that this was being proposed, and I don't know how many people in town, whether it be on the planning board or conservation commission or any other board, do, but I did happen to talk with 2 select persons. Neither one of them knew anything about it. So I think this is having it get to this stage with the drawings, which appear to be almost complete, is very premature, and I think it's kind of a waste of taxpayers' money to have gone this far without having consultation with the board members in Southampton and the residents of the street that would be affected, myself being one of them. I also have another piece of property that I own, which is north on Route 10, between what people probably recognize as Parker and O'Grady's office and the Greenbrier Apartments. And that particular section of Route 10 does not have a sidewalk, and it could use a sidewalk. The town could use a sidewalk running actually in front of the shopping center, so people don't have to walk through the shopping center. It could run up to Cumberland Farms, so it would serve to have it continue up past Cumberland Farms to the Greenbrier Apartments, which produces another 60 or more people that could walk from there down to Cumberland Farms and to the shopping center, Paisanos and so on, where there isn't a sidewalk. So having it run from Clark Street suddenly to a gas station to make it more hazardous for children who might want to go from the park to the gas station to get a soda doesn't make sense to me. I just wanted to make my feelings, express feelings I had an opportunity.
We as a commission got these documents on the 26th of February and hadn't heard about it prior to that. Yes, sir. Could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Gary Costico, I'm property on 224 College Highway, and we had a tree removed by the state this fall, and he made mention of sidewalk improvements, and that was, what, 6 months ago or so. So that was one of the, happy things for them to come and remove the tree, because they knew they were coming back to do work on the sidewalk, so it has been in the works for a while, apparently.
My daughter and I were at Target in Hadley, and I saw this beautiful architectural design spread out on Target's wall of my home, my community. And I'm like, really? We didn't know. We had no idea. But it was, it's lovely. But we had no clue it was coming. So, yeah, a little disappointing.
Well, I think your comments will be used to adjust the plan. And the gentleman who designed it, or the representative of this company will be here at our next meeting. And these comments you've made will be, will be made to him and given so that you can express the same opinions to him on this March 31st date. I did find out that this was anticipated to be bid at the end of June, and they were hoping to build this sometime in the fall. So that's their thinking as far as implementing it, and I heard about that today. But if it's not agreeable to the residents, then it has to be adjusted. Yes, Ed?
Yeah, Ed Bonner. I think what people have to realize here is the state does what they want to do. I think what they have to do is call the representatives and beat on those people, because I think they have to go a step above you. As much, power you have, but you have to beat on the people that are elected to handle this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the state was too worried about the community's input in this project. That's what it seems to be at this point anyway. This is what we're doing, and, I don't know if it's gonna change from here on in, but it seems like they went through a lot of trouble without any community input.
It's their road,
Exactly, they do what they want to do.
their perspective, their road.
Yeah.
I would guess the only
I
thing
agree
is
with that perspective.
possibly these plans were submitted for review, as they're not stamped yet, finalized, so we could get a little bit of input and say, well, let's put a sidewalk here, or move one over here, this isn't practical.
And again, it's going before the planning board. Yep, Bruce?
I mean, I believe, even though it's a state highway, and it appears that the sidewalk would be within the limits of the state highway. In other words, the sideline of the highway would be the back side of the sidewalk. It's still, I believe, and I haven't checked into this thoroughly, but I believe there is a requirement that in the town of Southampton that the abutters are responsible for shoveling their walks, and in terms of the past winter that we've had here, we've had a lot of snowstorms and ice and conditions that make it very difficult to shovel walks, and, more than 5 or 6 times. So it's not an easy thing to accomplish for a person that might be over 50, 60 years old.
Yes, please.
Melina House, 24 Mountain Circle. Do you, and I don't know if you guys know this, but do you know if they looked at the going north from Palmer Meadow section?
Certainly, as part of the master plan, it's referred to in there, and
I'm pretty sure that the sidewalk that would go from I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong, but the paper again, that goes from the fire department up the east side of the street to Palmer Meadow Road, past Cumberland Farms, past Greenbrier Estates to connect to Gun Road is part of the Safe Routes to School project, which is still in the works.
Very early design
Very
phase
early
right
stage,
now.
but that is certainly a conversation and will come up again and is in the works. Because that would connect, would make a big leap for all the kids to be able to walk to school.
Is that also a Mass DOT?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
So it's the same group. But at least there'd be a clear sidewalk.
Yes, Quentin?
You might consider talking to Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Spearheaded the master plan. Their transportation group was well involved in this discussion about safe streets, so they would be a good contact.
Thank you.
So is it correct, we really didn't have any advance notice of this? They didn't expect with the highway department or anything?
I've been in the chair for 3 weeks, and I found out about it. I heard little things about it, but not a lot up until a couple weeks ago. So.
According to what I saw at Target, it's going to be lovely downtown. I mean, they've got this common area and trees and rerouting streets. And
Rerouting streets in Southampton?
Yeah.
Really?
Downtown. Go to Target. Let's go. There's some architectural pictures that are really elaborate. Right across from the town hall. They're diverting streets and East Street. Yeah. There's going to be a heliport somewhere. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
All right.
So, quite a lot.
All right. Is there any other comments? I think we have a number of them that we'll pass on, and you'll be able to reiterate them come March 31st.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to also focus the discussion that the Conservation Commission can only speak to the wetland issues of the project.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this public hearing.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor? And we have written confirmation that Brian Sullivan would accept that.
Aye.
So we've closed the public hearing on this project right now to be continued.
Continued. It's not closed. It's
It's
continued.
closed, well, it's closed for this evening, but will be continued on our next meeting. Okay? Very good. Now, I have...
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Okay, now, we're going on to the CPC. Now, we have three projects that are in the works in principle that have been reviewed by this commission and also reviewed at the Community Preservation Committee group. And they involve one, Southampton trail mappings, and I think you've all seen this. I think I've forwarded Jamie's email. And they cover Wolf Hill and Zipta Conservation Farm. We've been out there getting new GPS data via PVC and one of the colleagues there. And so these are going to be relatively small, I think, compared to what we have here. And the project is fairly well outlined. The cost is going to be a total of, at least in part, will be $23.48 minus any printing. And as it was reviewed, the $1,500 compact fees that the Conservation Commission has approved will be directed towards this, and there's a PVC matching grant of $700. So the amount due from Southampton is $148.53, and if you want a website version of this that could be put on a website, that would cost approximately another $500. And I think Art pointed out the last time that we have to deal with some signs also. We have a project, I think, that's going to be developed for Wolf Hill by Jillian what's the last name? How do you put it? Yeah, so it's 3 syllables, H-E-N begins with, ends with S-O-N. She, I think, is going to do new signs and some benches, and exactly how much that's going to cost. And again, typically, when we go to the CPC, we give a general figure, and we give the money back if we don't spend it. So I'm thinking this project will be about $3,500 to $4,000, something like that, to be presented at a warrant in at the town meeting come the middle of May. So that's the approximate cost for that project.
So it's signage and
Maps, and we're going to have 2 brochures somewhat different from that.
Okay, so that's all in one project,
More or less, yes. Yeah.
the maps, benches,
Hiking and signage on these 2 sites, just 2 of the sites. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on Manhan Meadows too, but not on this project.
Wolf Hill and Zipta.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay? Now, we also have and this is, I think some of you got similar information last time, but I can pass out. Do you want to put those down all the way tomorrow? I got to keep one of these, though. Here, this, did everybody get one? Yeah, you got enough of them. If you go to the second page, Manhan Meadows Trail Improvements, these are some of the things that we're anticipating being done this year. We have to get, again, based on Bob's input, he drew attention to this, the procurement law being adjusted so that we don't have to go through a request for proposals for something less than $10,000. And that's very helpful, Bob, thank you. And the list of activities is shown there. Basically, the number one goal here is safety. Now, this is going to be perturbed somewhat by what the Boy Scouts might come up with as an option, you know?
I talked to the Scoutmaster, was it yesterday? Within the last couple of days, and he's got a Life Scout working on his Eagle that is actively planning on using the bridge as his project.
His bridge, okay, so the bridge is, and that may add, we have one proposal, and remember the Conservation Works data that we have, and I think you've gotten the whole down to the bolts and nuts and bolts. That's a very nice proposal. But they went through a request for proposals for the compact that we are a member of. They were chosen by PVPC from a number of different companies to support the compact members. And we have that as a ballpark figure. And in the Manhan, nothing to do with the bridge, is about $7,000 to $8,000. And this commission has also voted in the past to give something like $4,000 to $5,000 towards the bridge. If you remember that estimate? So I'm thinking this project, independent of the bridge, would be approximately $8,000. And you've got, I have those proposals, the thicker ones that came from Conservation Works. Now, also, I have checked out, gone to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and they have given me some additional names. And we're going to get comparable, which is, I think, to be very credible in front of the CPC, get comparable estimates, but I think we've got a pretty decent one right now. And this is something, and again, if we put in for $8,000 in a warrant, subsequent, if we make some decision about who is going to actually do the work, or we adjust the content of the work, then we have that flexibility. So that's one of the projects, and we'll anticipate what. Now, the Boy Scouts project is going to have to be approved at state level, national level, right?
Yeah, through BSA.
And how long will that take, do you think?
I don't know, I think he's planning on physically doing the project spring, summer.
Spring, summer, okay. All right, now, we had a Boy Scout project at the Whittemore Trail.
Do we want to solidify something on a Manhans Meadow Trail?
Okay, fine, please. About 8,000? Or do we want to have a vote? Do we want to vote?
Well, that's what I was just going to...
Yes, how about...
Does 8,000 sound right
8,000,
for that?
I think,
I'm not remembering the...
Yeah, it's about that, yeah.
We're
It's gonna
voting to ask the CPC for
CPC.
8,000?
For a warrant, yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And then you're assuming that the one proposal that you have is correct?
No.
I would go so
You'll have-
far to say
and
that
again,
that's a good ballpark.
It's a
And
ballpark
we'll
figure.
solicit some bids, say from some local contractors, perhaps to do the same work, kind of
And we
thing.
had discussed getting RFPs out, remember?
Right.
When this originally.
But if it's under $10,000, we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We still could.
At 11,000, that's what.
Well, yeah, I mean, that,
Well, we won't let it do that.
I think if it would go to the highway, change the scope of the work to keep it under budget.
right.
We can only spend $8,000, so.
That's it. We could supplement it with some of
I'd
our...
like to see other people have an opportunity.
Well, they will. We
Absolutely.
have addressed that. We are addressing that.
More than one quote anyway.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we
And
have
that's
to
the
get
thing,
more.
under $10,000, you have, best business practice, which would be...
And the reason they're not in right now is the fact there's snow on the ground. They have to look it over, too. These
An
people...
RFP just assumes even if it's $7,000, that you're looking at apples to apples to apples when you look at your contractors.
Right.
Yeah.
Make a choice.
Well, we'll make that judgment, too.
For
So we
the
need...
sake of getting it on the town meeting warrant, I'll make a motion that we solicit, or
Ask for.
request $8,000 of CPC funds for the Manhan Meadows Trail improvement, minus the bridge restoration project. Actually, let's leave that in there.
Leave that in there,
Strike
yeah.
that piece that may need
Leave that.
funding that we could use from that.
Okay. Seconded, please.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can you do another one for the hiking maps?
Sure. What did you need, what do we need for that?
Dollar value on that?
We have a relatively modest dollar value. We wanted signage and printing costs, so we wanted to add about $4,000 at the outset, at the far end, $4,000. I don't know what the printing will be. The last time we did these, it was about $800, but Art has, I think, some route to get it cheaper. But if we just put in, now we have $1,000 left over for the Zipter signs.
We do.
And so we might need a few signs for this Jillian project coming back on the route. And we don't have to pay much for those NOIs, because most of these projects are going to have to require a notice of intent. But I don't think, I hope they don't need delineations. That might be let's assume, we have to get Mahler out there.
We can do that ourselves.
All right, so I think we need, say, 4,000 for the,
Well, I definitely don't want to pay $500 for that one they're saying we could put on the website. When we can just take a PDF, scan it, and put it on the website for considerably less money.
Jamie, can you respond to that?
Yeah, that is that option, and then what we were talking about is we use an ArcGIS kind of online template, and so you'd be able to go over the route, and there might be pictures that pop up of the different features of the trails, and it's just a little bit more interactive. It's up to you. That's just an option that you have.
I think we talked about this website in Coleraine, was it? We saw it at
Well, that's
the...
certainly more than
It's just not
It
a...
is, but it's still a little spendy for my taste.
Well, let's see what it looks like. Let's give us the money and we'll be disciplined with it. No, that's not what you're going to accept. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we request $3,500 from CPC to cover the Wolf Hill and Zipter Conservation Farm maps, signage for Wolf Hill, and potential and benches for Wolf Hill.
Okay.
Does that cover it?
Yep.
Signs, benches, maps.
We have a website. You don't want to put it on the website? You don't think...
That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Let's work up to that. Let's get this stuff done.
All right.
All in favor?
All right.
Can we vote?
The motion, and it's been seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm in favor too.
Mr. Chairman, since we're voting in CPC things, perhaps now is the time to vote for the CPC member.
Oh, yes.
We haven't finished this yet, tomorrow.
We're going to do that. Yeah, we can move on to the third one. We had a project already under Whittemore. This has advantages in the sense that, one, we have to improve and extend the trail. It is also connected with Easthampton, at least could be, and it has a lot of support from the Department of Conservation and Recreation. And this would probably, if you look at the one proposal that we have had in place, it should amount to about, at the outer limit, 5,000.
Is that the proposal we got from conservation?
That's correct.
So we'll use that as a...
That's the baseline.
Yeah. Put it out there, bid some local guys, and...
That's right. Well,
I'd make a motion that we hold off on that project till we entertain the notion of surveying our properties. Being as though that would be a new trail primarily.
What do we have for land maps in the area right now?
oh, quite a few. What do you mean, land maps? I mean, survey data?
Yeah,
From
survey data.
Heritage,
Do we
yeah.
actually have hard pins in the ground?
Well, I mean, my thought behind it, someone want to second that for discussion?
I'll second it for its sake of discussion.
So we know where it is rather than start a new trail creation project. If the commission decides to establish our property lines, blaze our property lines, we do that first before we start cutting new trails.
Because that whole area does abut private property across the length of the Pine River Road.
There's some sensitive abutters.
But this has been already blazed, the edges have been on this
Well, if you read through their proposal, their proposal is to move significant sections of the trail.
that are unstable, that were built by the Boy Scouts, that they consider unstable, and get boggy, too. So it's not a really good trail. I think I've photographed it and sent you guys some examples of it.
Is it something you think we could wait on until the snow's melted? We can take a walk out there again?
If it happens...
I'm not that familiar with it, honestly.
Okay, we could set up a...
Right. Yeah, I mean, to me, they say it's unstable, that's their opinion.
I'm very familiar with that area, but I haven't been on these trails.
Okay, that's an option, to set up a site visit, and we should be able to address this hopefully by March 31st, because the Community Preservation wants this work, these numbers in by their meeting in April, beginning of April. So as soon as the snow melts a bit, we can go out there and check it out.
Mr. Chairman, just a question of Bob. Do we have an idea of what the cost would be to survey our properties?
Specifically, no. That when I talked to a surveyor, just, more than hypothetical, that it would be likely over $5,000. The main thing I was looking to get out of that is it was before I researched Chapter 30B to see the threshold change from $5,000 to $10,000, to see if we would likely be over the $5,000 and have to go to RFP, so getting quotes really didn't matter. But I got the feeling that it would probably still be between, to do all of our properties, to be between $5,000 and $10,000.
Could you pick the ones where you have some problems?
Yeah, we certainly could. We've got a motion on the floor that we probably ought to deal with before I make another one, but
Yep.
my thought would be to solicit or to request $9,000, say, from CPC to do surveys and kind of get some quotes and see if we can do them all, because my further thought on doing them all at once versus piecemeal is kind of having it, well, at least a perspective, if not a feel for annual town meeting, that if we ask for money this year to do survey and blazings of our property lines, and then we do it again next year, people are going to remember we asked last year, or this current year, but they're going to forget the detail that we said, hey, this is only part of our properties, we're going to come back again to do the rest of our properties. So if we try to do them all in one whack, if we have to come back, it would be a new property, which theoretically, if we acquire a new property, we'll just have it blazed at the time of acquisition, rather than playing catch-up for 50 years or more on some of the properties.
If it's something that falls under the purview of CPC money, I think it's a good idea.
If it does. And that's
I've been
something,
thinking about it
you
at
have
first, it hasn't
to
been
bring
but
this
I
to
think it's a
their
good idea.
attention. And it's probably good to have a prioritized list of what you want to do and know what's there and what isn't. And that would be their next meeting. So that would be so where are we with our motions?
That Bob made he moved that we should survey the properties prior to creating any more trails, and Randall seconded. That was the motion.
Discussion. Any more discussion?
Who's in favor of that? No, not in favor of that. I'd rather get some work done out there.
It is work.
Important work.
Yeah. If we if we cut a trail in and it's not on our property,
Wasted money.
it's wasted money and it's a
That's not
huge
That's not
liability.
the issue with the Whittemore. It may be an issue with the Zipter Conservation Fund, but I thought we were addressing that issue after a site visit when the snow melted.
The trail maintenance issue, you can still do the trail maintenance.
Right, they're existing trails.
Yeah,
Presumably, they're on our property.
yeah, I'd like to take a look at it myself, what you said.
Why don't we, and then we could address this issue again as far as the Whittemore at our next meeting after the site visit. So we don't need a motion on that, we just will put it on the agenda again.
Would the commission, if I may, Chair, like me to talk to some surveyors and get more detailed
I think that would be appropriate.
pieces on the survey so we can put a presentation together for CPC?
Definitely.
How many properties we can do and whether we need to prioritize them or whatnot.
Because are you thinking it's going to be done professionally? You know, like, I did a little, my property. That went to 4,000 or 5,000 without much territory covered,
I think it has to be defendable. If we're gonna put up those little medallions on the perimeters
Yes,
of our
absolutely.
properties, it's useful so people don't trespass on other people's land.
Absolutely.
And, like, if we create trails that aren't on our property, it's wasted money.
Mr. Chairman, at the MACC annual conference, one of the workshops I took was conservation land encroachments, addressing them effectively, and the need to have your properties surveyed and pinned and legally substantiated was very important so that there's no difficulty. And they also pointed out that when you are going out to do your surveying and pinning, you should notify, even though you don't legally have to, as a courtesy, notify the abutters so they know what you're doing and why you're doing it. It just makes it for better community relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly a case in point with town property, where we're sitting currently may or may not be deeded to the town, technically.
We're in Maple Street, right?
Say that last point, Bob, again?
Where we're physically sitting right now
Oh, really?
may or may not be technically deeded to the town. Obviously, it's accepted that way, but the way the deeds are,
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of deeds for this piece.
Unclear.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of deeds.
Oh, I
for
think
so
the buildings- I
hopefully,
think the
we
buildings
don't
are
run into that problem. I think,
Get it through
when
squatters' rights.
Okay,
when we came up with the information for this, the deeds are there, so it should be cleaner.
okay.
Well,
So if we finish this, you're going to get your project together and go to the community preservation again on the first Wednesday?
I didn't say I was going to go to their meeting.
Huh?
I didn't say I was going to go to their meeting. I said I would get the information together.
Is that Charlie?
I think it's April, it's the first Wednesday in April, 5:30. But again, these projects usually are requested in October, so, and the possibility of it being related to historical preservation is some daylight around the concept, so we'll just have to see how they respond.
Well, I mean, certainly in the future, we ought to be working on these so we're ready to present to them in October, so
Yes.
that we're not rushed trying to put things together.
But these maintenance things in hiking maps, they've been in the hopper for a while. Okay, the point Marla made, we are losing a representative on the Community Preservation Committee. I encourage Bob to join the master plan implementation. Did that sound good to you, Bob?
How often did you say they meet?
Once a month.
Once a month, huh?
On around the 15th. And I think you've got a program associated with that we're going to talk about now. And would you like to accept that responsibility?
I will, am I going to get like excommunicated if I miss a couple meetings?
Oh, I don't know. Not in this town.
Oh, what, master planning?
Yeah.
If I can-
Act the select board member.
I will see what yes, I'll,
Next Wednesday, I was assured it was only 1 hour of my time.
next Wednesday
At
Nothing in
6
this
o'clock.
town runs an hour.
at 6 o'clock.
Okay, well,
I'll give it a shot and see if I
Okay.
can make it fit the schedule.
And,
Be able to
Mr.
make next
Tebow.
Wednesday, though.
I've talked to him on the phone. Would you like to be a member on the community president pending approval by the rest of the, I know everybody's got, things going. You're free.
I am, you checked already for me?
Except for November and December.
Sure, I'll do it.
You gave me the schedule. All right? Now, now we go on to the issue of...
Do we formally vote or not?
Oh, do we need to vote for that?
I don't know.
Probably ought to.
Okay, will someone nominate Bob as a member of the implementation, master plan implementation?
So nominated and moved.
I'll second that.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And someone nominate Rick for community preservation?
Same, so nominated and moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Open space, it was brought up already, and I'm just going to make a few comments that we have been fairly successful in defining open space in this town, and the interaction with a would-be owner of property would maybe approach us and have interest in having their property put into permanent either conservation, restriction, or permanent sell it to the town. That's something that happens. And we also, and this is the process that I think Mala has mentioned a number of times, where we make this inventory of open space that we consider particularly useful in supplementing the properties we already have. And these could, and it's something that the town lawyer is going to call back to me about, but we can also, and I know since working with Conservation Works, you can get trail easements and keep them on property that is private. That helps connect some of our properties. So that is a fairly cordial interaction, and sometimes if you see a piece of property that the town has some, that this commission, and it's a vote of this commission, that says it would be a very nice thing to consider adding to our, the town's roster of conserved properties, then you just approach the person. They may have no intention of selling it, but your interest in this is a very slow process. If you think about the Howland Conservation Area and some of the, even the Greenway, and the number of efforts, the efforts for the Cerro property, these are not simple. This is fairly complicated and patient exercise. And so that's how we have been successful, and if we need to go that route on a particular piece of property, we go to the CPC, and we also can go to state agencies. And the CPC can be influenced by, we have a remarkable accomplishment of the Friends of the Greenway and the Greenway Committee in orchestrating a thorough and enthusiastic response for the possibility of having a rail trail through the town. And that kind of community action is very useful in implementing any open space. So we also have had some instances where this commission has voted to ask the town to buy property that the owner of the property has interest in taking out of Chapter 61A and developing the property. And this commission has asked the Select Board at 2 occasions recently to buy the property when we have not presented any means, financial means, to do that. And so the Select Board is somewhat disoriented, you know, to be asked that question. And in the last meeting, in which Ed Gwinner's lots 1 and 2, a 3-acre parcel on Cook Road between Cook and County. Yes, sir? We're moving on to the specific issue here.
Let the record show that I'm leaving the
Yes.
movie, leaving the movie, leaving the meeting.
So we're moving on to the specific, and we have the Gwinner brothers here to help explain. They came to the meeting, the town hall meeting, the select board meeting, and they indicated that Fish and Wildlife had been addressed, the Barnes Aquifer people were approached, and Easthampton was approached, and none of them seemed to have the resources or the interest to purchase the property. And so this commission had a vote, and went to select board and asked them again to buy the property. And this time, the select board, instead of, you know, why are you doing this? They said that you have approximately 120 days to come up with the basic market value of the property. And so this is something that is a process that I think this commission should not be involved in. If we don't have the money for it, if we can't go through this open space scenario, patiently working with the state or CPC over a period of time to pick up a prime piece of property that we would like as open space, but to just take properties that are coming off 61A, I don't think this is we should discuss this. This is something we should discuss, and to help us clarify the situation and what this property is like and what this this process means to the owners of the property, Ed and his brother Richard can address the commission also.
I want to make a statement, though, before we do that. I totally disagree with what you say there, Mr. Chairman. Both of the properties that we went in front of the select board, this one and the other one on Pleasant, did have some open space capability. This one does connect a corridor, a wildlife corridor, you know, and I think it is our fiduciary responsibility to the town to be able to, you know, to try to go after these, to try to get whatever funds we can. If we can't, we can't. But just blanketly saying, no, you don't go after these after we voted here in both of these properties, I think is absolutely wrong.
I have a question. Where's the wildlife corridor you're talking about? Because I lived on Cook Road for 12 years. I was actually the steward with the Fish and Wildlife and taking care of the property in the back. And I'm very familiar with this piece of property. It doesn't connect with anything. It gets to County Road and it butts a bunch of houses. The backside is a dump. Right, I constructed a utility pole fence to stop illegal dumping, and the backside abuts a horse farm. And
if you look at for what it's worth, the wildlife habitat overlay falls right over all of it.
Yeah, but that's taking into assumption that the gas line and the high line's an open corridor, and it's not.
So I say, for what it's worth.
But it's not.
No.
To Art's point, I think there are pieces of property that really celebrate wildlife, celebrate water preservation, celebrate recreation, but there's a priority here.
Well, I also read the letters, and that has never been a field. It's always been a corn field that gets fertilized and tilled with corn every year. There was a junkyard on the backside, and it's just scrub pines up on the corner by the Easthampton end. I don't see how it has any...
Yeah.
You know,
if I may, Mr. Chairman, in a
Open space, right?
more general sense, not necessarily to these properties or these parcels.
Yes, please.
To the master plan, all throughout it's all about, right, it illustrates and emphasizes preserving open space, ag land, and all of that. Like I say, I don't know that these, you know, this 6 acres, is it?
3.
Oh, 3 acres between the two, or?
Well, there's 30.
Oh, there's 30 acres, okay.
Yeah, but you're talking two lots, right? Now, I have
Go
another...
ahead, let him...
wait a minute, I have another question here before
You know, so...
Go ahead, Bob, sorry.
You know, kind of to your point, I get, if we don't have a funding source, you know, it's just kind of an exercise, so to speak. So we should be looking for a funding source. And also, like you say, we should prioritize, you know, what's desirable, what's not desirable.
But that's it, we're just throwing darts. Every time a piece of land comes out of 61A,
But it's not every time, we've passed on a lot of them.
past two that I've seen,
We passed on a lot.
Well, it's getting to the point. But also, when we asked the town to buy a piece of property coming out of 61A, their response last Tuesday was that find the money and you have till 120 days. In other words, the commission, having no tangible resources to pay this and not very likely getting it via CPC or state aid, is putting this obstacle for 120 days in front of an owner of a property. And this is an irritation. And I think, Mr. Gwynn, are you finished on?
No, first, it's not, it's just part of what you do in 61, not just 61A, 61B,
Yeah,
61 in total. I got a question here, though. I've got the list, the 61A list, and I see 28 acres, not 30. Is there a reason why that is?
It's because the house, Barbara's house is there, and that's not, since it's
So,
a house, it's not.
so we're talking 28 acres, not 30, is that correct? Okay, go on.
Okay, Mr. Gwynn, would you like to make some comment?
Well, we've got to let him finish,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I see here, assessed value here, according to the tax rolls, is $143,900. Is that correct?
For what?
For the 30 acres? No, this is what you're paying taxes on, I think. I hope you are.
An assessment is,
The taxes are paid, believe me.
No, I'm not saying that they're not, but I'm just trying to get an idea of...
an assessment on land is way different than an appraisal on land.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about the assessment. The Board of Assessors have a value of $143,900. No, I just want to make sure this is all correct, because I've gone through these before, and again, I see you do have a series of, I guess, they're addresses. You've laid these out into house lots, is that correct? I just see numbers up there. I'm just trying to figure out this map.
No, see, you're way off base.
Yeah, those
That's
are-
something the town created.
Yeah. Those are just-
Okay, no, I understand, but
Well, you
that,
have to know what's going on in town.
That's why I'm-
How long have you been here?
that's why I'm
How
asking.
long have you been here?
Don't
Okay,
be argumentative.
we wanna just
I'm asking a
concentrate.
question, that's all.
All right, now,
Well, now I asked him a question. How long have you been here?
Now, you don't have that right to answer that question.
okay, Mr. Gwynn, I think you have a position based on the behavior of this Conservation Commission relative to these parcels. And you'd like to voice that issue to this commission, okay? Is that okay? Robert?
Let me just sum it up. The land has been in the family for 95 years. My grandparents, parents, aunts, they've been paying the taxes on it. For the last 2 years, I'm co-executor of the estate, unfortunately.
You have been for 25 years.
For 25 years, since my aunt died. So I'm trying to appease 11 partners in this.
Oof, good luck with
For the
that.
last 2 years, I've had my oars in the water. We went to Baypack, Bars Aquifer. Are you interested in it, right? It's a nice piece of property over the aquifer. Oh, we like it. Would you like to give it to us, basically, because we don't have any money. We went to the Southampton CPA. Would you like to buy this? This is a nice piece of property. We're buying ball fields this year, okay? We went to Mass Wildlife, you know.
They own some across the street-ish.
And they said, we're not interested in it because there's a paved road between our nature area and your cornfields. Wildlife doesn't cross a paved road well. You know yourself, you see a lot of different animals in the road. But so we have been trying to preserve this land any way we can, but we've given up. No one has any money, and I'm under the pressure. Everybody wants money. I mean, I just put my daughter through college, $200,000.
Exactly, 200 plus.
But, you know, I'm paying it off.
With no aid.
Yeah, with no aid, I work.
All right.
Anyways,
On top.
so that's all I'm saying. We've already been through this. We don't want to be delayed anymore. If you have the money to buy the whole parcel, why buy 2 acres, or two building lots, when there's 14 more sitting there? These 2 building lots will be tied into the Easthampton sewer system, so they're not going to affect the aquifer. The next 12 are going to be septic. So if you want to buy it, you've got to come up with 1.6 million and buy the whole thing, and we will sign this off in a heartbeat. But until then, that's all I got to say.
Okay, Gail, please.
I needed you to speak at the Board of Selectmen, and it was so clear to me that you made every effort to conserve the land. And I think here we are having a discussion about saving something that these folks were even trying to save.
Sure.
One of the things that I see, just looking from the outside, is we have a representative on APAC, and I think we just need better communication, because if it went to, we're getting it when the clock is ticking at 120 days. If we'd have known back in August, when you went to BayPac, we'd have had that much more time. And I'm just making a plea for the commission to have some sort of plan to communicate better. I don't know who the representative is, I think it's Randy on BayPac, you know, to bring that information, or whoever sits on the CPC, if someone comes in front of you pleading to conserve something, if you're a representative of the CPC, why don't you bring it back to the Concom? Those pieces seem like they don't fit together and work like everybody was talking. You have a better chance of helping people who wanted to do the right thing for the town.
Sure. Did you look at APR? I mean, I know that they're going to have the same story.
You know,
Because I know 2 people recently that went to APR and they didn't offer them anything reasonable.
it's not our job to find a buyer for this. I found a buyer for these 2 lots that you have in front of you. I've got a buyer for the rest of it. I mean, hopefully, you know, if you people can come up with the money, that's great.
And that's an important point. Anytime we go after money, whether it's the CPC or the state, it has to be competitive.
Yep.
You know, we may desire to have many parcels put into a conservation restriction or conservation permanent town ownership. But to get the monies internal to the town, there's politics there. And there's other projects. The Greenway dominate. We have, remember that 100 acres next to Wolf Hill?
Would you consider doing a development and do the cluster development?
Oh, no, because the planning board shot that down.
Oh, okay.
You can't do it because you can't meet all the requirements. You need 30 acres, which we have, but it doesn't meet the requirements, and I have a plan. I have a plan drawn up for it, and I went to the board, and they said, well, you don't meet all the requirements.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you tried.
So I tried, yeah.
Mr. Gorner, is there a different side? That's all rural residential in that area. Is there different rules because you're going to be tying into town sewer instead of septic? Are you allowed to do a smaller lot because of that? Or
Easthampton is more than willing to accept the sewage from the whole thing, but we're not going to pay to put sewer over there.
well, for those 2 lots you're talking about now, though, I mean, does it change the restrictions on the lot size in RR zoning?
No,
does it change it?
Yeah.
I don't know if it changes square footage of the ladder rumor somewhere that you could
Still,
60,000.
175 feet of frontage and 60,000.
1.3 acres,
So the
yeah.
sewer doesn't make any difference, which is not, not a problem to us. The only, I got a couple of quotes here that I'd like to make or comment. I'd like to ask Mr. Lawrence, when was the last time that you run the Levesque or Chrysler property? People that own it. You don't know.
Don't know where it is.
Right.
Is there a reason that I
The
should?
Levesque property was taken by eminent domain by the town of Southampton, which they got zero for. They were gonna put the landfill there. Those people got hosed. The Preisner property, that's a whole nother story. That was a raw deal, done by some attorneys. So you haven't been to the property, so what difference does it make whether the state property on the left-hand side of Cook Road is open space, or the property that we own on the right-hand side? Does it make any difference to you? Or are you just a tree hugger?
I'm not going to answer that.
You're not gonna answer it. Because
Well,
you came
okay.
into town to cause trouble, that's all.
No, okay, please. We are discussing the process of going through 61A.
Yes.
And this is a respectful discussion, trying to get the opinions on the table. We recognize that following these procedures where we request the town to purchase a piece of property, and we haven't done, we don't have the resources to do that, then we inflict certain pain and suffering, as it were, on the seller of the property by delaying what they're doing by 120 days. And most people who have, real estate issues, having a 4-month delay with no possibility, internal to the town or statewide, to get the money, this is not a good deal, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, no disrespect, Ed, but, I mean, I've got property in 61A as well, and you know, when you sign it into it, you sign on to this. If the town gets first refusal,
Exactly.
you
know that.
you know, you've got the waiting period.
We're following the rules.
Okay, so are we.
And they do have to, once it's out of 61,
You know
don't they
something?
get a Bennett? Don't you?
Everybody in here lives in a house, and you have to remember, somebody built that house.
Yeah.
And you were upset, you two, that you wanted to put the boots to Mr. Kellogg over there on Pleasant Street.
Okay, this is
because
off
he's gonna
topic.
develop it.
Come on.
And you're doing the same thing to me.
All right, we don't want to expand the discussion. Let us, your
Just
comment.
remind people what the purpose of the Conservation Commission is. They're
enforce
doing their
wetlands
fiduciary
laws.
duty to conserve the open space. I don't think it's a
Then why don't you buy it?
Okay, thank you, Gail,
What-
thanks.
what- If I may,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, so you just looking for us to either come up with the money now, or...
No,
or-
not now.
Okay, just...
We're just saying, you know.
well, we,
Well, I'm just...
Yeah, that's,
the meeting on the select
this is what
board,
I want. If you can come up with the money, I'll be.
yes, and we have to, the select board,
Exactly.
the select board
And
requests,
120 days isn't an issue for you.
Well,
Well,
I mean, I understand.
we know what the end result's gonna be.
I mean,
We've been through it. I got all the paperwork right here.
Right.
We've been through it.
for the 3 acres, the select board has requested the Conservation Commission to come up with $250,000 by April, the end of April sometime, because this started in mid-January. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding that the select board said we should discuss the entire 30 acres because that was the property as a whole rather than nickel and dime it. Mr. Gwinner had said when Baytech and Easthampton were talking about it, they said all or nothing, the value was a bigger parcel. We also knew that if there was any opportunity for funding, not necessarily from the town or from the state, but from various land trusts, they would be looking at the bigger parcel. So it was my understanding we would be looking to come up with the money to buy all of it or be done with it, and then the Gwinner family would sell it off however they chose to. It's an all or nothing. I had made calls to Baypack to see what was going on and what Mr. Gwinner and Mrs. LaFlamme and Patty Gambarini from Baypack all said the same thing. They tried to work with Easthampton, their water department, and it seemed to have fizzled out. They didn't get phone calls back. And part of it was about they couldn't get funding for an appraisal. when I told Patty what had happened at the select board, said, okay, you have till the end of April to come up with something. She said, Winding River, and I sent the email out to the Conservation Commission, Winding River would front the money because it would be under $4,000 to do the appraisal, because you have to have the appraisal before you can ask people to give you the money, and you have to get it within 2 weeks. But Winding River wanted someone to back it. They would, quick front it, but if in the end you couldn't buy it, then they wanted the money back, or at least a part of it. So that would be something to discuss today. There are land trusts. Patty had also suggested that it could possibly be a collaborative effort with Easthampton going for part of it, or land trust. It doesn't have to be one organization funding all of it. But it would be a whole lot of work scrambling. That's what conservation agents sometimes help you do, because it's somebody's full-time job.
But Kestrel plus Comic and Winding River, they don't have much money. So if the land trust route, or if you wanted to go to, and I think we asked also for the Audubon Society, they don't seem to have money for the bird sanctuary concept that was exchanged in emails also. So ideally, if we had some source that would be able to get some money together within the time frame these gentlemen would like to have, good, but it's very difficult to do that, especially when you consider the amount of money required for all 30 acres. So, where are we going with this? At least we've had an open discussion about it. It was a factor that in our meeting last, that when this vote was taken, only 3 people voted for it, and I abstained because I didn't have all the data. It's not really the majority of the commission that had recommended the town purchase this property. So if someone would like to put up another motion to request the town do that, and we'll have 5 people, we can vote as, we'll have a chance to get a more representative vote.
I object to that. Being a person living on Pleasant Street, it was just fine to take a vote with less than 5 or 6 people voting. So I think your vote is your vote. If that ship has sailed, right? The clock is ticking. You have your 90 days left to put up or shut up the money.
Charlie, it's no different. We had 3 votes and you were 4, so 4 is, that's what we had.
I did vote.
Well, yeah, but you were there, you could vote. For the vote. So
You chose not to.
yeah, I've never heard of a person abstaining.
Mr. Chair, people are talking about the Barnes Act for committee.
Yeah.
This letter from them, read the last line.
It would be, it would be great to talk to you by phone about this. I will be calling you as soon as I return from vacation, August 19th. That was last year.
So that's what you're dealing with. This is the state again. You have to understand.
Now,
So the only issue that we had in front of the select board was 3 acres.
No,
We've been asked by the legal representation of Mr. Gwinner to take 3 acres out of 61A.
It's the only thing that's on the table is the 3 acres. The
Yeah.
30 acres was a separate discussion.
And it
Legally,
may come
it's just the
down-
3 acres. That's all we could vote on.
Well, tonight, they just offered to sell us the whole 30
No,
acre
that's,
parcel.
but I'm saying what we went in front of the
Right.
Board of
I
Selectmen.
understand.
was
61A
was
piece
3
is for the
acres,
2
Lot 1
parcels.
and Lot 2.
And we're been asked to come up with finances for this within 120 days, beginning, I think, at the end of January. So, that's the status of the project. No one has any other issues to address on this, other than wait and see what we come up with?
My concern would be if we're going to go through with the appraisal, because if you don't do an appraisal, then you can't go to anyone for money because you have no idea how much to ask them.
Have you been to someone who has sufficient money that they say they're interested and they would like the appraisal?
I agree with the chairman here, and what I thought we had more was coming from, what's his outfit, Baypack? I thought that they were coming to the table. From what I read and some of the information that this person sent out, I thought that they were going to move forward. Obviously, that's not the case.
APAC seems to be the liaison. They don't seem to be a source of money.
Outside of a specific appraisal prior to, finding funds, I think there's a pretty generally accepted dollar figure on a building lot. And it's 2 building lots?
Yeah.
But
We have a buy-sell.
with that being said, they're not interested in buying 2 buildings, I want the whole parcel. So now we're talking 20 some odd building lots at $100 and something thousand a piece.
Right, that
That's a
is what we
stretch.
were looking at, even though...
Understood. But I'm saying just for the purposes of these 2 lots coming out of 61A and related to spending $4,000 on an appraisal.
Plus, what,
That's for the whole
250 for
30
the...
acres.
Understood. Still, it's, spending thousands of dollars for an appraisal
On property that we're
that,
probably not gonna
we've
get.
got a reasonable, I think, a reasonable dollar amount to be approaching land trusts or whoever for funding, that if we can get in that ballpark with a funding source, then it would make sense to do an appraisal. But they're asking for a dollar figure for the whole 30. There's
That's
another,
another-
dollar
that's
figure
another
for
issue.
the 2 parcels if we want to do a parcel at a time.
Yeah, see the Baypack, I mean, they're saying right here, we want it all or nothing.
That's
So-
what they say.
So that's why I can't see why you're gonna waste your time trying to buy a couple building lots.
Well, Mr. Winter, the only reason is that that's what's before before us, legally, just the 2 lots. You haven't taken the other 28 acre or 27 acres out of 61.
No, we're giving you the chance to buy it.
And that's what they said at the
I
select
could
board
buy it if I
meeting.
wanted, but...
That's what you said at the select board meeting.
Exactly.
Just talk about all of it
Yeah.
and be done with it.
All I'm saying is the clock is ticking on the 2 lots.
That's why we're here.
Understood.
Right.
Understood.
It's gonna tick, it's gonna tick.
So is this the state of the art? This is, we're waiting for the resources to be identified?
But if someone doesn't do anything and take on the project to do it, we can sit here and it'll be the end of April and
Yes,
nothing will have happened.
those people who really believe in it and voted for it, I think, can do that. Right, Molly? And Art? I think Art has already approached a number of land trusts for Pleasant.
Again, I don't see anything coming. I was under the impression that this Baypack, or whatever they're called, was ready to go. All they needed was a damn, excuse my French, all they needed was money for the appraisal, which I'd be more than happy to say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But now I'm not hearing anything from them. Where are they tonight? How come they didn't come?
All right, maybe.
They don't care. We're paying them.
Oh, yeah, I don't know who...
And they don't
I don't know
have
anything about this group.
resources.
Well, let's see here.
We're supposed to have some representative on it by the name of Slattery, but I don't see him there tonight either.
Okay.
So I guess that's where we're at then, is to...
Go ahead, Courtney.
For this town.
It sounds to me like you have some new information here. You can vote again. I don't see a problem.
Yeah, we could.
Why don't you take another vote so you can get it through?
Yeah.
You've already said you only had 3 votes. I don't think that's really a quorum.
No.
Maybe it was wrong.
Okay, we're following the open meeting law, please. Okay, would you want to present another motion? Rick?
Well, okay.
For the 3 acres, which we've been asked and charted by the select board to find resources to purchase, because that was the comment made by, and at the select board meeting.
Ask her select board person. That's
About,
present at the meeting, a quick question.
Okay.
What do you think the likelihood is the select board's going to give us $250,000 for the property?
yeah, come on.
I don't think so.
Yes, Paula?
I just don't...
The select board put it out there to go for the entire property. I even made the point to clarify them that legally the only topic was the 2 lots that were coming out of 61A. Both Mr. Gwinners agreed to discuss the entire property. I think if we have any interest in it whatsoever, someone needs to be working with BayPAC, pressing them and not waiting for them to come back from vacation. Last week, I was on the phone and emailing the woman back and forth, but I have to say, I have a full-time job during the day, and my employer did not pay me to spend all day on the phone with BayPAC. If someone else has the time to contact them and perhaps come up with something, an action plan in the next couple of days or weeks, so be it. I don't think one has to give up, but if there is no one who is going to be in contact with them or with any other land trust, then that is a waste of everyone's time.
Again, if they were so interested, as Mr. Gwinner just read here, I'll be back to you on the 19th, well, they would, and you've contacted them directly, they're not here. I haven't heard their side of the story.
No one invited them to come here.
Well, we should have invited them.
That could have been your job.
We should have invited them.
Is there any hurry to stop the clock from ticking and settle it tonight? Because I heard the Board of Selectmen need to the end of April to come back and give an update on where you were, and then you have like
Exactly.
another 30 days. So you've got your 90 days. You're either going to come up with the money or you're not, you know?
But we haven't even, you know, this is the first time we've discussed it since the select board meeting. There hasn't been a plan other than making a few phone calls and emails.
There hasn't been an effort to really obtain funding from what I can see, or even sit down and have discussions with 6 or 7
The process of getting funding, as laborious as my preface to this was, describing what we had to go through for the Howland property, for the Greenway. This is a long, involved process requiring, especially if you have a local component to it, and you usually do, a tremendous amount of grass work effort like they did with the Friends of the Greenway.
Because when it gets to this point, the clock starts ticking, and even the best fundraiser can't
Yes,
find money like
exactly.
that.
And so does this commission want to have another motion associated with the one thing that the legal document that we got was for the 3 acres, taking it out of 61A and making a recommendation with the new data that we have to the select board? Does someone want to make that kind of a motion, or do we just let the project and the situation stand as it is?
I would make a motion that we refuse the first right of refusal on the 2 1-acre building lots on Cook Road.
Anybody would like to second it? No. Okay, motion failed, so we're in the status of requesting someone, perhaps Marlon or not, who are enthusiastic about this, to come up with and figure out where the resources are to get the $250,000.
I'm happy to help you with the solar light.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure it'll do a lot of good. Thank you. Okay, that's about ends the discussion on the lots 1 and 2 on Cook Road.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've got to excuse myself and get back to work because I'm back in the clock already.
Okay, we're just about finished.
Thank you very much for your time.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleenish.
And Jamie, you see the kind of things we deal with here? And the bureaucratic, I've given her Mala's report.
If I may finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Charlie, I
Take it
really
off.
got to go. I was supposed to be back at work a half an hour ago.
Oh, okay.
If we could table the master plan implementation,
Oh,
it's
that's
probably going to be
Yeah.
a thing on the agenda, I would imagine, for the foreseeable future.
Say that again?
For the master plan implementation, for the foreseeable future, I'd like to at least see it on next
Oh,
meeting
yeah,
agenda.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for pulling
Explain
that
my
data
little
together.
blurb out there.
That'd be great, Bob. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, y'all.
Good night. Now, the only other thing, again, I emphasized early on, that we have, we've gotten $13,000 to come up with a concept of a joint conservation agent. The amount of work associated with keeping the activities of this commission professional and keeping everything, the T's crossed and I's dotted, are very significant. And skill sets, whether they're maps or Marla's note-taking, or let alone, Art is the most highly developed treasurer that I think in my tenure we've ever had. So these are skills that I've given Jamie a typical treasurer's report. I've given her the summary of the work we do. I've given her some of these projects that are coming in, so she knows something about how we handle and what we have to handle. And the emails, I get 15 emails a day, something like that. Molly gets them forwarded to her. So anyway, we are really doing a good job, if you ask me, keeping everything moving. And but it's dependent on volunteers, and we'd like to stabilize these processes and these skills with someone like a part-time conservation agent.
And so just, I don't know if you all are familiar with the project, I'll be very, very quick. Like you said, we have $13,000 of state money, PLTA, District Local Technical Assistance Funding, to look into the concept of a joint shared conservation agent. I've done this already for Easthampton. I've attended one of their meetings, and then we followed up with an interview. Right now, there are 3 phases to this project. The first one is phase 1, inventory and assessment. So we're just trying to get a sense of what you all do, what are your priorities, where they differ, where they overlap, and where there might be shared collaboration between the towns, for instance, on properties, manhandling, rail trail, things like that. We'll develop a framework for the position, so that, for instance, like what the position needs to do, what they need to be involved in, and then also look at budget, cost estimates, cost assessments. And then finally, if the 2 towns agreed to go forward with this joint conservation agent, we would help you develop a intramunicipal school agreement. So that's just a basic rundown of the project. So now that I've visited both of your town meetings, one of the next steps is I need to just know a little bit more about the background. I had a follow-up meeting with Jess Allen after I met with the Easthampton Conservation Commission, since she does a lot of behind-the-scenes legwork, administrative stuff, just to get a better sense of what are you spending most of your time doing. I don't know if tonight is the best time to go through all that.
Yeah, not tonight, no.
So I was hoping that we could set up a time for a conference call with either some or all of you, ideally. I think Charlie mentioned that Saturdays work best. That's fine for me. I was hoping if we could set...
that's good.
Whenever.
It seems to be late at night. We'll email and try and figure that out.
Okay, so
but the nature of the project is, what it is. That's cool.
Just a question, because I know I see Liz back there, and she's giving me the evil eye, so... the $13,000 would be obviously for an agent, and that agent would work across both lines. Is that what you're saying?
$13,000 is for the study and assessment and developing the agreement.
That's all.
That's state
So
planning.
it's not beyond that.
No.
So then we'd have to go and see Liz and say, hey, we need 20K or whatever to...
Depending on, how
30.
much it would cost.
Okay.
No question.
There.
But if it's a joint one, hopefully, and the communications that Jamie will make and we will make to the select boards of both the select board or the mayor, I guess, in Easthampton, justifying this, because this is needed by this time.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I think we can adjourn the meeting.
Actually, I have a couple things.
Oh, excuse me.
There's a question. Some of the salaries that we've seen, and I'm working with Patty Gambarini and my colleagues Josh Garcia on doing research, so we're contacting other towns, trying to get an idea of what they do. We've done, I think actually Charlie might have sent these. For instance, salaries might be $700 a week. This is for full-time, like 5 days. So we're talking part-time, a couple days a week.
Split between 2 towns?
So it's 350 divided in half. I haven't done the road for this.
See, I'm telling you, she'd be all over it.
But a model, for instance, I don't think they're shared, but for instance, Hadley and South Hadley, there's a same person who works different days in different towns,
Yeah.
for instance. So that's what we're talking about.
And that would also include insurance and, liability and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, I think it would. Again, I haven't gotten that far yet. But
The building inspector, I think, in the town of Southampton has some shared responsibility, right, Liz?
Not,
No, I don't
no,
think so.
that ended year.
Did it?
Yeah.
Doesn't he go down to Easthampton and sit around there? Or has an
Not
office
anymore.
down
I
there?
think that used to be the arrangement.
Okay, I thought that was the case.
What do we generally pay a conservation agent we hire to do site visits? What's the general hourly
On the
rate? Like for Brian
volunteers,
Brooks? No,
zero.
like for Brian
I don't
Brooks?
I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. how
Is
this
this going to be an economically prudent thing for us to do, even after the study's done? We put somebody else on town payroll?
Well, we have to see, if you don't, then, we could move back to, pre-2000s.
What kind of duties with this conservation agent?
Everything.
Whatever you need, like for instance, maybe you need someone to really focus on land stewardship. You have all
Yeah.
these properties that are 61A, they've never been dealt with, they're just kind of sitting there, so prioritizing, and then you mentioned.
Yes.
Or maybe it's like in
Implementing.
Easthampton, they need help, I don't know, pulling certificates of compliance and things like that. It just depends.
All the bureaucratic things here.
Yeah.
What about like helping Marla out with the
Yes,
arduous
and
tasks?
and all these things could be pulled together, but,
Obviously, they wouldn't do everything.
Yeah, Liz?
Is there ever grant money available to fund a position like this? I'm not sure. That's something we're planning to look into, but I know that the state is all about sharing services and stuff, so there might be.
it'd be cool.
Mr. Chairman, I know that at the MACC conference, whenever you have a workshop, they usually ask who here is on a conservation commission, who here is an agent, who here is,
Yeah.
this or that. And I was really surprised at the number of agents that has gone up. It's almost as many as conservation commissioners.
Cool.
And I had spoken to one who was at the same table as I, and she said, she does the minutes, she does the paperwork to make sure it's in order when an RDA or an NOI comes in. She'll do preliminaries, she'll arrange for the site visits and, the permissions for the commissioners still have to make the decisions. But, she has a technical background, so she can actually even inform you more of what's going on. It certainly frees up a lot of the resources, as well as if you think of Belchertown's conservation agent then, who spends all her time looking at the property towards having it come out at 61A or otherwise, purchasing land.
Yes.
So it's
If we had a piece of
part-time or
property
full-time,
that
it
we
would be
wanted, then
great.
it would be very helpful to, churn the soil and address those things.
So would it be best if I followed up via email to set up a doodle poll, for instance, where we could find a good time to talk?
Yeah.
Is that?
Does that sound reasonable?
And if Saturdays, are they the best, or really any times generally okay for me? I'm a night owl.
whatever works best. All time is equally
We'll
impossible.
survey them and see who's available.
All right, I'll pick some early evenings and then some Saturday days. And
That's cool. Very good. Thank you, Jamie,
great,
for
it's
coming.
nice to meet you all.
Thanks.
All right. You have some comments?
Oh, all I had was, I was obviously not involved in the discussion, but I could still hear what was going on. Apparently, I am the representative from BayPAC. I found this out last Thursday, just to make that clear that I wasn't shirking any duties. And I don't remember Mr. Gwinner coming in. It's completely possible that they did, but I was not at all of the CPC meetings, every single one, so I had those 2 points.
Okay.
So, BayPAC, what's the story? I know you're new.
Apparently, because I'm the highway superintendent, that I am one of the representatives on BayPAC for Southampton.
So you'll let us know what the, how do we move forward on this? Because BayPAC seems to be the big thing here.
I don't know where, I'm not sure where you got that information, because I got one email from them, and the email, actually, I can't even discuss the email because
Right.
I have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, you gotta be
So
careful.
it's a little hard for me to bring information to you when I have a conflict.
Well, see, that's stupid, you know? I mean, is Slattery on it too?
APAC doesn't
Yes.
have a
Then we
source.
could bring
a fellow-
Slattery.
It doesn't have...
I did submit my email to the select board, so you can get the information there.
Yes, all right.
I believe that on that matter, we need to contact Patty Gambarini tomorrow and let her know if we want to meet with her or get going separate. The members from Southampton are part of the whole group. Patty is coordinating what's going on. She would be the one we would be in touch with.
Right.
And whether you or Mr. Labrie or Mr. Slattery vote representing Southampton or not in any given meeting is beside the point.
Well, I mean, Slattery could do it because he's not on this commission. Right?
Well, neither is Mr. Labrie,
Or Labrie, yeah.
Oh, we have 3?
unless someone resigned.
Okay, if someone would like to close the meeting and make such a motion, I would accept it.
Sorry, I do have one more thing. I think it's vitally important. We kind of danced around it a couple times tonight about prioritizing what we're looking for in conservation land.
We used to have a list.
Oh, we did?
In my previous tenure in this board, we had a list.
All right, I mean, I think
Robert
that's
Floyd
huge.
and I had compiled it many,
It
many
does
moons
seem
ago.
like every time something comes up, we want it, but we don't have money.
In the
And I think
past-
it might give us a little more
And
credence.
in the
if we
past,
go-
if a piece of land came out of 61 that wasn't on our list, we passed on it.
And do you remember what the primary, the top 2 or 3 parcels were on that list?
There's a parcel of property off College Highway that abuts Fletcher's Farm that we had interest in, that's still developable. I don't know what the name of this piece of property was. I believe the Wolf Hill property was one, because we got a hold of that when I was on the board with you last time.
Yeah.
That was one of them. And there's a third one that I can't remember right now.
So it was an actual list of properties as opposed to a list of criteria you're looking for in a property?
Yeah, properties that were in 61A that were hot spots for us to try to jump on if it did come out of 61A.
What's the
That
open
would be a wonderful
space,
thing to get.
open space document? That list,
I thought it was in the previous master plan.
You want to identify, it's not, I don't think it actually even shows up on the GIS.
Courtney, do
Was-
you
was-
have the previous master plan?
Wasn't it in the master plan, Courtney? We were sort of dealing with that.
The previous
it's
one?
got to be somewhere.
The only one I know is the one that was just completed.
There was one that was done maybe 5 to 7 years ago. I believe that I know for a fact it was in there.
It should be somewhere, yeah.
There's an open space plan, 2008.
Is there anything listed in there? No. Okay. So I'll wait for my motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.